Hi, I'm Bill Snodgrass, and in this episode, we're going to talk about sports photography, particularly swimming pictures. We're going to talk about swimming pictures and try to give you a couple ideas about what you can do to get the best results from the opportunity to take swimming pictures. All right, let me take a second and tell you how to set your camera up for swimming pictures. It is a sport, and so you're going to want the highest shutter speed you can reasonably get, and without running your ISO into the range where it creates, a lot of artifacts and noise and distortion, that sort of thing. So know what your best choice for ISO is, and then run your shutter speed up as high as you can within that context. And remember, if it's one or a half stop too dark, there are some corrections that you can do in Photoshop afterwards to bring that up a little bit. You can't go too far, but if it's just like a half stop or just a little bit off, you can raise that. You may want to be in burst mode. That depends on your style as a shooter, whether you want to be in burst mode or whether you want to do single frames. I find burst mode very helpful because as the swimmers are doing their stroke, I can anticipate they're getting ready to turn their head towards the camera and breathe, so I can start shooting and burst through that part of the stroke where they're actually looking at the camera. Also keep in mind, as far as the camera concerned, you're in a water environment. There's water in the pool, obviously, and then there's a lot of humidity because of the pool. So you need to keep that in mind. And if you do get some water on your lens, wipe it off as quick as you can. And then when you store your lens, store it with as much of, if the thing zooms out. This is not the lens I use for sports, but it is actually drying, and by drying I mean I used it last night and I got a few drops of water on it, and so I zoomed it out and put it in the cabinet and let it sit overnight to let as much of it as possible. That's pretty much the considerations as far as where do you set your focal point. I set it in the middle, and I just compose around that. That just seems to work for me. And if you're at the side of the pool, a horizontal composition, and if you're at the end of the pool and they're swimming towards you, you might want to try vertical composition sometimes. But I use in the pool, I use mostly the horizontal composition. So those are your camera settings. Make sure you use your servo autofocus, the one that is going to focus rapidly on a moving target, whatever that is on your camera. And then burst mode, and that's pretty much the camera settings. Highest shutter speed you can get without ruining the picture with ISO noise. So swimming is an event that is obviously done in a pool. So the way the sport works is it's like a track meet, except the races are shorter. So you have like your 50-meter race, and then you have your 100, and then your whatever, and then in swimming, there are different strokes. There's the freestyle, breaststroke, backstroke, and butterfly. So there's 4 different strokes that take place. So you'll see all of these races transpire. The racers will start either in the water for backstroke, or they'll start on the starting blocks and they will dive in and swim down and back. The races are at least down and back. The challenge with getting an interesting swimming picture is that you really can't tell one swimmer from the other in the water, except the only thing we'll be showing will be usually arms and maybe the head and their kick. You may have their feet showing. So for the most part, their body is underwater. So one strategy to get some more interesting pictures is to use an underwater camera like a GoPro and get some underwater pictures, and that's always a way of getting some interesting angles. And there's a lot of challenges to shooting GoPro pictures. Will not be part of this video. The other is you have basically 2 different places that you can compose your picture from: the side or the end, because it's a swimming pool. So you can either be on the side of the pool as the swimmers are going by this way, or you can be at the end of the pool as the swimmers are coming towards you and going back the other way. So composing your pictures from the side or the end are really your 2 options. I have not had the opportunity to get on the same side of the pool as the starters. The judges and the coaches have not invited that to happen, or so it always has seemed like that's a space that is not for spectators or photographers. I do get down on the deck, so I don't have to be in the stands shooting down. I can actually be down on the deck. Now, what is your composition strategies? If they're swimming at you sideways, a horizontal composition where you can follow is going to be probably your best bet. You can be able to get the different strokes as they're going by. And if they're coming at you where you have the whole lane and they're coming this way, you may want to try a vertical composition as they're swimming at you. So that's two considerations. Now, what are you looking for in an interesting swim picture? My idea is that you probably want to get faces, which is going to mean you need to anticipate the breathing of the stroke. And so in the freestyle, they will take sometimes 2 or 3 strokes with their head down, and then they'll turn to one side or the other. Some swimmers will always breathe on one side. They'll always breathe on one side. Or some swimmers will breathe one stroke here, couple strokes down, one stroke here, couple strokes down. Partly depending on the distance of the race. The longer distances, they get into a breathing rhythm and will breathe more regularly. Some of the sprints, they will breathe very rarely. They'll keep their head down so they can go as fast as they can, because it's, they're able to do that because of the way they have trained, so they can breathe less frequently. Breaststroke and butterfly, they will come out of the water. Breaststroke, they will come out of the water on every stroke, which they're coming out and they're swimming this way. Butterflies, they're throwing their arms over, and a lot of times they'll breathe on every stroke or breathe on every other stroke, depending on the swimmer, depending on their level of experience and expertise. To compose a shot of more than one lane at a time, if you're on the side, you're going to want to get down low to the water and shoot across the lanes so that you can get multiple lanes at once. I like to use a telephoto lens. It gives me the option of being able to zoom in really close and literally get those water droplets dripping off their face as they're breathing, or to be able to zoom out and get down and get pictures of several of the swimmers at once. It is going to be hotter in the pool area, and it is going to be humid, so you need to take that into consideration. The way you dress. The deck will be wet, so you're going to want shoes that are going to afford you some level of traction on the wet deck. There are a couple of, falling in with your camera seems like a really bad idea, so you're going to want to watch out for the edge of the pool. And in some pools that there will be access panels to various of the pumps and the machines and the filters and the things like that. Sometimes those will be like a metal cover, and when that metal cover gets wet, it becomes extremely slippery, and so you want to watch out for things like that. Try not to fall in, and that is probably one of my top recommendations. Other than that, you're going to get a lot of pictures. The only difference you're going to be able to tell between one swimmer and the other, if they have their name or their number on their swim cap, or if you happen to catch them as they're breathing and they've turned their head to the side and you can see actually who they are. So you're going to have a lot of pictures that look very, very similar. If you're just trying to get a iconic picture for a newspaper or a magazine, you may be able to get in 1 or 2 races and get a couple of really nice shots and be done with it. If you're trying to record the entire swim meet and you want to get pictures of all the swimmers, or at least some of the swimmers out of every event, trying to get the most of the students or the most of the athletes represented, then obviously you're going to stay for the whole thing. In Indiana high school sports, they put diving in the middle. So you'll have some of the races and then a long section of diving, and then the rest of the races will come after that. So during that diving section, you would switch over and you would be taking diving pictures, which is a completely different discussion. And depending on interest, I may do a diving video as well. But that's it for swimming. So you have horizontal composition if they're going sideways, vertical composition if they're coming at you. An interesting picture is to get beside the platforms where they dive off of, and try to catch the start where you have swimmers who are in the air having hit left the starting blocks. Other good composition pictures is to get down and to shoot across the water where you can get multiple lanes at the same time. Being able to zoom in and get close-ups is another interesting picture. Other than that, try not to fall in and enjoy the process. That's all for this episode. I hope this has been helpful. Hope the example pictures have been somewhat useful to you to give you some ideas of what you might be able to do and go out and have a great time shooting swimming pictures. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, sign up for notifications. I do inspirational, motivational videos as well as the occasional tutorial. Leave me a comment, a question, a suggestion, or an idea. If you have experience shooting swimming pictures, if you have some favorite tips and things, put those in the comment section as well. Share what you know with others who may find this comment section. That is all for this episode. I will see you in the next one.